Welcome to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now, I have a lot of interesting and fun content heading your way. Welcome to the show. And like I said, I'm so excited to actually be here because I do have a lot of fun and interesting things to be sharing with you. I have a lot of interesting content for you as well. But right now, we will be talking about sustainable fashion. We will be talking about why renting clothes is actually not very sustainable and why it's not actually the most sustainable way to go when it comes to fashion and when it comes to everything related to fashion as well. Welcome to the Sunrise. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise, and it is a show that talks about all the fashion. It talks about self-help lifestyle, personal development, and so many other different things. So make sure you stay tuned because it is a beautiful Monday morning. A very, very good morning to you. I hope you're having an amazing day. I hope you're having a great day because I definitely am, and I'm so excited to be here and share with you whatever happened during my weekend. Okay, because I do have a lot of fun things to be sharing with you. So make sure you stay tuned. Now, if you want to be a part of the show, make sure you text me on 078 or you even call me up on that same number. You can definitely go follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Now, make sure you go follow us on our socials, and that way you can actually be a part of you can be a part of this conversation. You can contribute your thoughts, your opinions, whatever it is that you need to share with us. You can do that. So make sure you do that because I do have a lot of interesting conversation to share with you. And also don't forget to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So make sure you do that because like I said, we have a lot of interesting conversation happening right now only on Relax Radio, where we talk about all the positives and no negatives. So make sure you stay tuned. But right now, let's actually get into the conversation we're going to be having right now. And I think it's a very, very important conversation that we're currently having because sustainability is something that people are aware of, and it is something that people are very conscious about. So people right now are in fact much more sustainable than the people back then. And when I say this, I don't mean this in any way that is offensive to anyone, but obviously, when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to making sure we take care of the planet, the generation nowadays is definitely much more conscious when it comes to that. So that's what we will be talking about because we need to talk about sustainability in terms of what we do, in terms of the lifestyle we have, and also in terms of fashion because fast fashion is a huge thing and there's a lot of issues that are related to fast fashion as well. So make sure you stay tuned because we will be talking about all of that. All you need to do is just be a part of this conversation, be a part of this show. You can text me, you can call me, you can do whatever you want. All you need to do is actually just get in touch with me. So make sure you do that. But to get into this conversation, now, why exactly is renting clothes not the most sustainable thing to do? Now, let's actually talk about it. Fast fashion, I don't know if you've heard of fast fashion, but I have. And if you haven't, well, don't worry because I will be explaining fast fashion to you. I will be explaining fast fashion to you and what exactly it is and how exactly it works. But if you are aware or if you know what exactly fast fashion is, you know how it is a big problem right now. You know that there is a lot of issues that are related to fast fashion, especially in terms of ethics, in terms of how it pollutes the environment. There are different issues or complications with that are related to fast fashion. And because fast fashion is something of a trend right now, everyone is buying clothes off the internet for cheaper, and it's also much more affordable. And we've seen all of this, right? And even if you haven't seen it, well, some of us are actually guilty of it. I actually haven't though because my parents don't let me. They know that I go crazy whenever I have to order online, so they never actually let me order online. So obviously, when it comes to fast fashion, when it comes to all of that, we know it is something that's huge. We know that it is something that everyone is talking about and something that everyone contributes to as well. So when it comes to fast fashion, it's a bit of a contradiction because honestly, while there are so many people who are consuming fast fashion, who are a part of that supply chain, who are, or rather who are part of that demand change, there's also a lot of other people out there who are trying to be sustainable. And a lot of people who are trying to be sustainable are, in fact, debating and they're criticizing fast fashion because they've seen the direct impacts of fast fashion on people, especially laborers who are involved in creating these clothes, and also in terms of the environment. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, back in 2013, actually, there was this factory that actually not necessarily exploded, but I would say crashed. And this was a factory full of laborers, especially women who were part of these huge brands that sell huge brands that contribute to fast fashion. And that just actually showed how much of how these laborers in fact were exploited, and how they weren't given proper pay, and how their working conditions were in fact terrible. So that caused a lot of issues, and then people actually started becoming more aware, and they started being or rather they started paying more attention to what exactly they purchase, to how what they purchase actually contributes to fast fashion and sustainability and whatnot. And because of that, because people right now are more they're more involved, or they care more about the environment, and they care about sustainability. Sustainable fashion is in fact the newest thing, and I have to say it definitely feels good to think of fashion in terms of sustainability, because we know how much of wastage, we know how much of pollution there is, especially when it comes to fashion. And I know I'm not the only one, but you've definitely seen documentaries on Instagram, on Facebook, about all these different impacts of fashion, especially when it comes to all these beautiful dresses that all these celebrities wear for award ceremonies and whatnot. We know that a lot of it is sourced from poorer countries, or a lot of the workers who actually help a lot of the workers who actually create these costumes, create these dresses or whatnot, actually are from poorer countries, and so they don't get paid much. There is no in terms of ethics, there's actually no such ethics when it comes to fashion. So it is amazing, and it is definitely you could look at it in terms of some as a development, because it's definitely helped shed light on how exactly the industry works, and why we need to pay attention to it, and make sure that when we are talking about fashion, that we're also talking about whether it's ethical, whether it's sustainable, whether it's good for the environment. It's very good that we're keeping all of that in mind, and we are thinking of fashion, right? Because that's what we need to do. We all need to change our lifestyles. We need to make sure we adjust to whatever the world is adjusting to as well. And right now, what the world is adjusting to is in fact sustainability. And when it came to this whole sustainability crisis, especially in terms of fashion, a lot of people were really thinking about ways in which they could address this problem. And one of the first things that obviously came to mind was renting clothes. And that's what you and I would have thought as well. Renting clothes seems to be the easiest answer, or the easiest alternative to buying dresses or even clothes that are really expensive and that are very fancy as well. So obviously, a lot of people thought, hey, maybe renting clothes is the answer. But apparently, a study has actually found right now that renting clothes is not necessarily the most sustainable things to do. It's apparently more green for you to throw away your clothes than to rent clothes. And I will get into that. I will be talking about why exactly it's important. Now, in terms of renting, we've seen a lot of people rent dresses, right? Or even clothes, any other type of clothing. We've seen a lot of people rent, and the most influential people who we've seen rent these dresses are celebrities. And even Boris Johnson's wife actually rented her wedding dress. So that just goes to show that people are hopping onto this, and it's good that sustainable fashion is becoming a trend, because it's actually making people focus on the fact that they need to be aware of what kind of clothes they purchase, and how exactly it contributes in terms of ethics, in terms of in terms of sustainability to the environment. And it's important that we keep all of those things in mind, and it's important that we keep all of that at the back of our head when we are shopping. So, like I said, a lot of influential people have been hopping onto this trend as well, and that's why it is becoming a trend. So, we've seen a lot of celebrities, like I just said, and also Boris Johnson's wife, who rented her wedding dress. But like I said, even though this is the case, even though a lot of people are jumping onto this trend of renting clothes, it's not exactly as sustainable as you think it is. And I know it's easier said than done, and I know it's definitely easy for you to just rent some clothes, especially for all these extravagant parties, whatever it is that you have to go to. But you know what, though, it's the pandemic right now. We're in the middle of lockdown. It's not like, even if you could rent, it's not like you could even wear any of these things anywhere. And it's important to keep in mind that especially during the lockdown, all these stores that dealt with rentals, all these stores that rented out clothes to people, they actually, their sales dropped because obviously, not a lot of people were going out. We were all stuck at home, which meant that renting clothes didn't actually happen the way it used to before the pandemic. Right. Now, when it comes to renting clothes, when it comes to sustainability, there's in fact a lot to talk about, because we do need to talk about fast fashion. We need to talk about sustainable fashion, and we need to talk about why it's so important for us to actually focus on fast fashion and sustainable fashion, and the role it plays right now in society, because it is in fact a huge problem because of how fast fashion is growing, because of how it is available to everyone, literally everyone. It doesn't matter if you are in, say, Asia, or if you're in Russia, or whatever it is. It honestly doesn't matter what country you're in, because fast fashion is easily accessible to everyone, because brands like Shane, brands like Zara, all you need to do is just go online, type whatever you want, and order it, and it just arrives to your country, wherever it is that you live, right? So obviously it's important that we talk about it, because fast fashion has been contributing to a lot of adverse effects, especially in terms of the environment. Look, and the other thing we need to keep in mind is, right now it looks like it might be good for the economy, right? But there's also a downside to it, and make sure you stay tuned, because we will in fact be discussing all of that, because there is a lot to discuss about when it comes to fast fashion. And before I actually move on to fast fashion and what exactly it is, I want to quickly remind you that you can be a part of this show. All you need to do is just text me on 07852473473 to be a part of this conversation and share your thoughts with me. So make sure you do that. But let's actually get to talking about what exactly fast fashion is and why fast fashion is so important. Now, fast fashion is in fact the term that you use to describe clothing designs that move very quickly from catwalk to stores to take advantage of trends. And I think that's what the future is all about. It's about being fast. It's about being able to get whatever um the newest fashion trend, or the newest fashion trend, or the newest clothing designs that are available as soon as possible. So that is what it is. But make sure you stay tuned, because we do have a lot more to talk about. But until then, make sure you stay tuned, because right now we are going to be heading into a small break.
it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. I mean, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense.
They can't accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well. And they get upset, And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young. Well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he'd say to me, "You had one to forget."
That's it. Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it." And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. I mean, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid, I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relaks Radio. Now, I have a lot of interesting and fun content to be talking about with you, so make sure you stay tuned. But also, a very, very quick reminder that you can, in fact, follow us on our Instagram, which is, or rather, follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can be a part of the show. Make sure to follow us on our socials. Make sure to, go click that follow button and even like our Facebook page, because that way you can actually make sure you're updated, make sure you are a part of the show and you're informed about everything that is happening all over the world, not just here in the United Kingdom, but all over the world. And the only way you can actually do that is by following all the socials of Relaks Radio. Okay, so make sure you do that, because Relaks Radio is all about the positives and it's about no negatives. And that's what we do as well. We want to make sure that there's absolutely no negativity in your life. And even if there is, well, we're going to work towards taking away all those negative vibes, okay? So make sure you stay tuned, because that's what we do right here on Relaks Radio. Now, also want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, be a part of our conversation. All you need to do is just text me on 078-52473-473. And that way you can make sure that you are tuned and you are conversing with us, and you can have the most interactive conversation ever. So make sure you do that, because obviously, like I said, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts and I would absolutely love to hear your opinions as well. So make sure you do that. Now, let's get back into our conversation, because we were talking about fast fashion. And to exactly figure out why we were talking about fast fashion, we need to understand that when it comes to fast fashion, it's one of the biggest growing, or the fastest growing things in the world right now. It's almost a trend. Everyone's talking about it. And importantly, while everyone is hopping on both the fast fashion trend, there's also a whole lot of other people there who are working tirelessly to make people aware of all the effects, to make people aware of what exactly are the harms that are caused because of fast fashion. So it's a whole conversation, and that is why you're tuned into Relax Radio, your favorite radio station, to make sure you are a part of that conversation and to make sure that you are aware and you know about everything that is happening in the world. So, like I said, fast fashion is basically this term that you use to describe clothing designs that move very fast from the catwalk to the stores. And this actually makes sure that it takes advantage of all the fashion trends. So back then, when we're talking about traditional fashion, what happened was you'd have all these runways, you would have the catwalks and whatnot, and after that it would take quite some time until those designs hit the store. And it also meant that not a lot of people could easily access it, because come on, it was really expensive, and also because it was all those biggest fashion brands out there. So obviously when it came to normal people, middle class people being able to afford it, it wasn't something that they could actually afford, or it wasn't something that they could be a part of. And because of that, because they couldn't afford all of that, there was this growing notion of, look, we need to make sure that fashion is as accessible to all, because why shouldn't people who don't have who don't have an income as high as you not be able to have the same chance of getting those same beautiful clothes that you're wearing, right? And this was one of the biggest issues, or one of the biggest questions that were there. So this is what started happening, because the collections that happen in runways or catwalks are often based on styles that are presented, or rather, the collections that are available in stores are in fact based on the styles that are presented at fashion week runway shows, or even clothes that are worn by celebrities. And fast fashion, like I said, what fast fashion does is that it actually allows mainstream consumers to purchase the hot new look or the next big thing at a very affordable price. And that is why everyone is jumping onto this trend, because it's very accessible. And it also means that regardless of your income, regardless of what income level you belong to, whether it's middle income or whether it's low income, it still means that it's accessible to you, right? And that's why it is one of the biggest trends. And come on, teenagers and teens, or even younger people nowadays, are invested in fashion, and that's not a bad thing. It's always amazing, or it's good that you care about what you wear and care about how you look, because I mean, ultimately what you wear, your sense of fashion, is what gives you that confidence. I don't know about you, but it definitely gives me confidence. Whenever I wear beautiful clothes, or whenever I have winged eyeliner on, it makes me feel very, very confident. And I think that's the same for a lot of people out there, because a lot of other people out there feel very confident, in terms of the clothes they wear, and in terms of their sense of fashion. That is in fact why a lot of people are jumping onto this trend, because it helps them be a part of that whole trend, but also because it helps them with their confidence. And who doesn't like to dress nicely? Everyone wants to dress nicely. So it's important that we understand this before we jump to conclusions and make assumptions, because that's something we're very good at doing, right? So make sure before you jump to those conclusions, you do as much research as you can. You tune into Relax Radio to find out the most accurate information about everything that we're talking about, until you form your own opinion, okay? Because here at Relax Radio, we also make sure that you don't hear just my opinion, you hear everyone else's opinion as well. So make sure you stay tuned, and make sure you text me on 07852473 to be a part of the show, to share your thoughts, to contribute your thoughts and your opinions and experiences to our show. So make sure you do that, because I would absolutely love to hear about it, okay? But getting back into this conversation about fast fashion, now, like I said, it's a most trending thing, because it allows a lot of mainstream consumers to, in fact, purchase the hot new look or even the next big thing at an affordable price. And fast fashion has, in fact, become more common because it's cheaper, it is speedier manufacturing, and its shipping methods, and an increase in consumers' appetite for up to the minute styles, and the increase in consumer purchasing power, especially among young people to indulge in these instant gratification desires, right? And that is why it is, it is basically rising. A lot of people are buying clothes from all these brands that are recognized as fast fashion brands because it's accessible and it has that instant gratification factor. And that is what a lot of us want, right? Because in some of the research that I read before I came here and I shared my thoughts with you, there was actually evidence that showed that a lot of these people who purchase from places like Zara or H&M or even Uniqlo or Gap or even Topshop, most of them purchase these items of clothing just to wear it once or twice, and then after that they would be done with it. So then, we have this whole question of, is it what's the point? Why do you buy all of these things just to wear it once or twice and then just throw it away? Again, it's a trend. It's only trending at that time period, and for it to or for it to make a comeback, it's probably going to take so much more time, right? So until then, you obviously need to sort of let go of it and make way for all the newest trends in your wardrobe. So that is exactly what happens when it comes to fast fashion. You wear it once or twice and then you just dispose of it because it doesn't serve you rather any purpose anymore. So that is what you do, and that is what fast fashion is as well. Now, when we're talking about fast fashion, when we're talking about why everyone is obsessed with it and why it's the newest thing, we also need to talk about some of the biggest brands out there that are considered one of the, or a few of the biggest sellers in the fast fashion field. So we have Zara, and then we also have H&M, and they happen to be two of the giants in the fast fashion field. And there's also Uniqlo, Gap, and Topshop, and they're also, they also have a large market share, but they also contribute to fast fashion, and they also contribute to how much of fast fashion exists within the world right now. Now, in terms of the economy, in terms of business, fast fashion is in fact a boon for businesses, and this is obviously because the constant introduction of new products in fact encourages customers to frequent shops more often, and it also means that they are going to end up making much more purchases than they initially did. So that is basically the basic psychology of how this works, right? When you have a lot of new things that are being introduced to your shops, every say once a week, or once in 2 weeks, whatever that time frame is, when you're constantly getting new material, when you're constantly seeing new clothes, new products, new designs, then you want to go and buy it because it's new. It is trending. That's why it's there in all of these shops. So because of that, it's in fact a boon for business, because a lot of people are now going to start frequenting these shops to buy all of those beautiful clothes, whatever it is that they consider the newest trend, whatever it is that they consider um the newest trend, and what everyone else is wearing as well. So obviously, when it comes to things like that, it is very important because it contributes to the growth of business, right? And like I said, when you're constantly introducing these new products, people are going to come more and more to your shop and keep on buying, because it's always a positive to constantly have new products, because people always want to buy new things, right? Especially if you're a shopaholic like me, you're just definitely going to go crazy when you see all of these beautiful, cute, t-shirts, dresses, whatever it is, and you want it. Like, it's very, very hard to tell yourself, look, do I really want this? Do I actually need this? And that is what we need to consider when it comes to sustainable fashion. Do we actually need these clothes? What I'm seeing right now, do I actually really need it? Can I survive without it? And that is what we must always ask ourselves before we go make that purchase. And I don't think it's just fashion. I think anything in general. I mean, obviously, unless it's essential like groceries or whatnot, then you don't have to ask yourself, is this really necessary? Because it is, right? But when we're talking about other things, be it new pairs of shoes or be it new clothes, you can actually ask yourself whether you actually need it, whether it's really, really necessary for you, whether you can't function without it. Because that will actually help you understand, that will help you figure out if you actually need something, and that will also help you to make smarter choices. It will definitely help you to make smarter decisions when it comes to fast fashion, when it comes to buying all of these things that you want, buying whatever that you consider, or buying whatever that is considered trending at the moment. So those things will actually help you make that decision, and it will help you be more aware and conscious of the choices you're making and how exactly it impacts everyone around us as well, or everyone around you as well. So like I said, when these fast fashion stores are constantly introducing new when they're constantly introducing new products, new clothes and whatnot, consumers actually, they know to purchase an item they like when they see it, no matter what price, because it's not likely to be available for long, right? We all do that. We all go and purchase something nice because we know that if I come back again to this shop in a few more days, even, or maybe, in a week or two, this item is not going to be there anymore. So because you really like it, regardless of the price, you will still buy it because you absolutely like it and you want to invest in it. And that is what every normal person does, okay? Because that's just how our brain works. Now make sure you stay tuned, because I will tell you more about how our brains work when it comes to fashion and fast fashion, sustainable fashion. We will be talking about all of that, but until then, make sure you stay tuned, because right now we're going to head into a small break.
Cycling in London is not child's play. How to be a better cyclist? Listen to my show, only on Relaks Radio. I'm Kevin. Join me every Thursday, 5 p.m. Look forward to seeing you.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise, and I'm very, very excited to be here because we are, in fact, having a very important and interesting conversation about fast fashion, what exactly fast fashion is, and the huge impact it is making on the economy, on the environment, and so many other different things. So make sure you stay tuned because you can find out more if you stay tuned to the Sunrise with me, Sarah, because I'll be keeping you company all the way until 9 a.m. And also, I have a lot of fun and interesting things to be sharing with you. So make sure you stay tuned. But But also, I have to very quickly remind you to go follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And that will actually help you stay updated, and that will definitely help you be informed about everything that happens all around the world and not just here in the United Kingdom. Okay. If you're someone who always wants to know what happens in the world, if you're someone who's interested in all the issues that happen here in the United Kingdom, all around the world, and you want to learn more, you want to be more informed, then the best place for you is in fact Relax Radio. So make sure you stay tuned, because we talk about a lot of interesting things, from science to health to technology to sports, entertainment, gossip, whatever it is that you want, we talk about it all right here on Relax Radio. So make sure you stay tuned, because we will be talking about all of it. Now, to get back to our conversation, or actually before I head back into the conversation, want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. So you can listen in from your iOS or your Android device from anywhere in the world at any time of the day. So make sure you do that, because it's definitely going to help you stay sane in these very insane times. Okay, make sure you do that. And also, don't forget to text me on 078 to be a part of the conversation, to share your thoughts, to share, your opinions, experiences, whatever it is that you want to share with us. Make sure you stay tuned, because that's what we do right here on Relax Radio. Now, to get back into this conversation, to get back into why exactly fast fashion is something that is trending, why it's increasing at an alarming rate, and what exactly are the impacts of fast fashion. We were obviously talking about how it works, and when we were talking about how it works, we were talking about how consumers are more right now, consumers want newer things, consumers are much more interested when you constantly have new clothes, when you constantly have new products, and you're constantly giving it to them. So when they constantly see these new products, they want to purchase it, and regardless of the price, consumers will still purchase it, because they know if they come back to this shop in a few more days, or even sometimes after a week or two, that piece of clothing or that item of clothing is actually not going to be there anymore, because that's what fast fashion is. Everyone comes and gets it. There's only a limited amount of pieces, a limited amount of t-shirts, or whatever it is, and you just get it, and then it's gone. It's not gonna be there again. So when it comes to that, that's why it's important, or that's how these big brands take advantage of the way our brains work, take advantage of our wants, or rather, yeah, our wants, because they know what exactly to play with, they know what exactly to put out there, that we will actually want it and not leave the shop without buying whatever it is that we want. So like I said, they are going to purchase it as soon as they can, because they know it's not going to be available for a long time. And also, because the clothing is cheap and it's also cheaply made, it's easy to get people back into stores or online to make fresh purchases, because it's cheap. And obviously, in a day and age where everything is expensive, if clothes are going to be sold for cheap, especially the most trending clothes are going to be sold for a much less price than how much it actually is, well, then chances are people are definitely going to purchase it. And that's why, fast fashion is in fact responsible for the biggest profits, especially if a manufacturer is able to jump on a trend before the competition. It means that they will have huge profits, right? Because that means that their products are going to hit the stores before any of the other brands. And the sooner it is there, the more people will buy it, because it's the first thing that was there on the store. And that means that they will in fact be ahead of this competition, because they would have already been in the stores by the time the other designers actually start planning or start even stitching the clothes that they want to sell at these stores. And because of that competition as well, brands are definitely going to try and make sure that their product goes into the market first. So the speed at which fast fashion moves actually tends to help retailers avoid markdowns, which cut into margins, right? And because it helps all these retailers avoid markdowns, it means that in terms of their business, in terms of their profit as well, it's definitely going to help them. So there's no way that they would say no to these fast fashion brands as well. So the other thing is, obviously, we need to keep in mind losses sometimes. Even though you can be having big profits, it doesn't mean that you'll always consistently be earning profits, right? Will be earning profits, because sometimes you can have a loss. And at in the instance of a loss, if there are any losses, fast fashion companies are in fact able to recover quickly because they can easily launch a new clothing line or even a design or a product. It's that simple for them because the moment they launch it, the moment it's something new and catchy, and if you're suffering from a loss, all the consumers out there are just going to be like, oh, you know what, this is cute, I will definitely purchase this, and they will make that purchase. And that is how fast fashion functions. That is just how that world turns. So it's really, I'm not saying it's easy, but in terms of how quickly you can recover from loss, how quickly you can get into the market, and how you can make consumers keep coming back for more, it's in fact very convenient for them, especially with all these new trends. And as you know, we've been stuck at home like crazy, and you know how many TikTok fashion trends have been there. You remember those leggings that we had, the Amazon leggings, and that was like one of the biggest fashion trends, and so many people were purchasing those leggings, and so many people were trying on, those leggings and making TikToks about it. So social media in fact also does play a part in influencing people what exactly they need to get. It does play a huge part in influencing all these consumers out there what kind of thing is trending right now, because after all, it is what is trending on social media that people will want to buy from shops, right? No way are you going to go and buy like a pair of bell bottom pants just because it's there in the shop. If it's trending, then chances are you will definitely buy the bell bottom pants because it's trending. But if not, you wouldn't buy bell bottom pants because that's such a back then thing. Like, why would I possibly, or rather, why would I even invest my money in something that's just like so old? Like, you totally wouldn't, right? Exactly. So that just goes on to show that social media also is in fact hugely influential when it comes to these trends. And in terms of crop tops, in terms of all these cute sundresses, we've seen so many instances where social media has been influential. Now, for example, I don't know if you remember, but they used to have this really cute sundresses, with strawberries, and it was one of the biggest trends back then. And you know what, if you have any trends that are there in your mind, if there are any trends that are trending right now, if there are any sort of TikTok related fashion trends or any social media related fashion trends, make sure to text me on 07852473 because I want to know about it. I want to know about these trends. I want to share these trends with everyone as well, just so you can understand how influential social media is in terms of what kind of clothes we buy, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. Now, there are other fast fashion brands like Fashion Nova as well that are hugely, influential, or that play a huge part or a huge role in the fast fashion industry. So, like I said, fast fashion does in fact help a lot of retailers to avoid markdowns, and if all these companies have a loss, then they can just easily introduce a new product, a new design, or even a new fashion line or a clothing line, and they can quickly recover from their losses. So that's how it is in the fast fashion industry. Now, like I said, as for advantages for the consumer, there is in fact advantages for the consumer as well. Now, like I said, back then, when it came to traditional fashion, the only people who could avoid, or rather, the only people who could actually be a part of traditional fashion, who could in fact be a part of that, and be able to buy all of those things, that was just people who are rich. You know how sometimes when you're trying to explain things to people, and it's like the word is that on the tip of your tongue, but then you're trying to remember the word, but then you completely forget about that word. It just happened to me. That's why I was like trying to think the word I was thinking, but then I wasn't because I couldn't remember. But it happens. It happens all the time to all of us. But to get back into the conversation, you know, um, a lot of when it came to traditional fashion, the reason that a lot of richer people could afford it was because it was something that only catered to them. The price range of all those clothes, the fashion, the material, the work that went into it was something that could only be afforded by people who were just really rich, and normal people couldn't afford it because it was too rich. And especially when when there's inflation, when there's so many different other economic problems in the country, and you're struggling to survive, then no way are you going to spend an exorbitant amount of money just to buy yourself the newest dress or the most trending dress, right? And especially if you're a normal, if you are a normal person, then you're not going to go out as much, and or rather, even if you do go out, you're not going to go out to all these extravagant ceremonies, award ceremonies, ballrooms, whatever it is. You're not going to go to all these extravagant events like all those rich people do. So then you buying all of those things actually made absolutely no sense, because you wouldn't be using it the same way a rich person would be. However, right now that has changed a lot because of fast fashion. All these trending things, regardless of whether celebrities wear it or not, it is in fact available to other people as well. It's available for it's available for the mainstream consumer. And that has in fact been one of the biggest advantages of fast fashion when it came to fashion. And that is also why it's one of the that's why it's increasing in such an at such an alarming rate, because a lot of people, a lot of mainstream consumers can in fact afford it. Now, like I said, when we're talking about it in terms of advantages for the consumer, fast fashion has in fact enabled people to get the clothes they want when they want them. Okay, it's just say, I want this crop top. Well, look, all I need to do is just go on Zara and just type it, and guess what? I'm going to have it delivered to my house in a few days. It has in fact made it very, very accessible to a lot of people. And not because almost everyone nowadays has the internet. Almost everyone can just go online, order what they want, and get it delivered to their doorstep. Nothing is stopping them, except that except the pandemic, of course. But if the pandemic didn't exist, nothing actually stops them from ordering what they want or getting what they want. And that's exactly what this is about as well. It hasn't stopped them from getting what they want. So when we're talking about advantages of the consumer, advantages of it in terms of the consumer, it has in fact enabled people to get all of these trending clothes the moment they want it. And what else it has done is in fact it has made clothing much, much more affordable. And it's not just any clothing, but it's in fact innovative, imaginative, and stylish clothing. And it is all these biggest trends that celebrities are wearing. And sometimes the clothes that celebrities wear is obviously hard for us to afford because it's so expensive, right? But fast fashion in fact is the opposite. It makes it available to us as well. And if you are someone who was obsessed with fashion, who absolutely loved clothes, who loved buying clothes, and you would hop onto the trend as well, because it is advantageous for you. It definitely helps you be trending. You would always have the newest clothes, and you can always be that social media influencer that everyone keeps talking about. So that has in fact been very, very effective. Now make sure you stay tuned, because right now we're going to head into a small break, but after that we will be back to keep talking to you about fast fashion, sustainable fashion, and everything about it. So make sure you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what has happened. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. So that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country, to be fair. Different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise. Super excited to be here on this beautiful Monday morning. I hope all of you had an amazing weekend because I absolutely did. So I honestly hope that all of you had that exact same amazing, exciting weekend. And I hope your weekend and you got all the rest and rejuvenating that you needed during that weekend, okay, because we were all very tired. And definitely, the weekend is the best time to, in fact, relax, take it easy, like the song Relax, okay. But also because it's Relax Radio, it's about relaxing, it's about taking a step back and enjoying the conversation. It's about hearing all of those thoughts that everyone else has about certain matters, different opinions and whatnot, because it's definitely going to help you understand, or it's definitely going to help you to be more informed as well. So make sure you stay tuned to Relax Radio. Now, if you have any thoughts, if you have any questions that you want to share with me, well, then make sure you text me on 07852473473, because I would absolutely love if you were a part of this show, if you shared your thoughts and ideas with me as well, because I would absolutely love to hear about it. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned. Also, don't forget to follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That way you can be a part of the show, you can share your thoughts and opinions with us, and you can also keep yourself informed and engaged about everything that happens all over the world. So make sure you do that. And also, a very, very quick reminder to make sure that you stay tuned to Relax Radio. And also a very quick reminder that you can, in fact, go download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And you can listen in from any device from anywhere in the world. And I honestly don't think that it can get any better than that. So make sure you do that. But right now, let's actually get back into our conversation about fast fashion and why exactly it's such a huge thing, right? So if you're just tuning in, we were talking about fast fashion. We were talking about the huge impact that it has had on the industry, the huge impact it has had on the world. And also, we were talking about why it's so advantageous for the consumer, why exactly it is advantageous for all the people to all these people who want to afford nice clothes, who want nice things but can't afford it, because fast fashion is in fact cheap, it's accessible to everyone, and it's also very, very convenient. But we spoke about advantages. Now let's actually move on to disadvantages. We'll talk about the disadvantages of fast fashion. We'll talk about sustainable fashion and why exactly some of the steps that we take, why exactly some of the things that we're doing to actually help us with fashion sustainability is not actually helping. So let's talk about all of that, but you can only listen to all of it right here on Relax Radio. So, to get into the conversation, what exactly are the disadvantages of fast fashion and why exactly do these exist? Now, that's an important question that we need to ask ourselves, especially if we're jumping onto this trend of fast fashion as well. Because I understand that. Especially if you live in some Asian countries, sometimes you might not have access to all of the fashion trends that the rest of the world has. And that is simply because of the fact that, Sometimes that could be an import ban, or sometimes you might, or sometimes when those things do come to Asian countries, or they do come to the parts, certain parts of the world, there in fact by the time it comes to that part of the that part of the world, it won't be trending for the rest of the world. So what is the point in you getting something as when the trend is over? Like that's just so last year, if I put it that way. It is actually quite last year, because why would you get something that is not even trending anymore? And that is the issue that exists, right? And also, when it comes to fast fashion, in some countries you can actually find all of these like really nice clothes, and I know this because especially back in Sri Lanka, my cousins and all live there, and they always, whenever I talk to them, they're always like, oh, it's so hard to find beautiful clothes here, and even if you do, it's so expensive. So then in instances like that, you have no choice, or the only choice that you have is to order from places like Zara. It's to order from places like Shane, because those are cheap, they're affordable, and they also have really nice and cute clothes, right? Because it might be fast fashion, but they do have nice, cute clothes that are cheap. And especially when you live in these countries and clothes are expensive and things are expensive, you would much rather go for the more affordable option than actually going for something that isn't as affordable all the way in your own country. And that is why a lot of people actually jump onto this trend. But going back into the disadvantages of fast fashion and why exactly it's not the best thing to do, so despite all these advantages that we spoke about, about how customers or consumers can get it as soon as it's there, basically the fact that they can get the clothes they want when they want them. The moment you see something, you can just get it. And also the fact that it's not just any other type of clothing, but it is in fact innovative, imaginative, and stylish clothing. Despite all of these advantages being there and the fact that it's cheap as well, there is still, disadvantages as well. Now, fast fashion has in fact been criticized because it encourages this throwaway attitude, and that's why it's called disposable fashion. It's basically, it has encouraged this idea, this narrative that it's okay for you to buy clothes and just throw it away after you're done with it. It's okay for you to wear it once or twice and throw it away. But the reason that's such a bad thing is because it contributes to environmental pollution. It contributes to how much of harm there is within the environment. And that's why it's so hard, or that's why it's quite complicated or complex than it looks like. Because while we're trying to move forward, while we are trying to be as how would I put it, while we're trying to be as sustainable as possible, when trends like these keep popping up, that makes it very affordable and also easy and convenient for the rest of the world, then it's going to get very hard for these people to get rid of this trend, for people to stop buying, for people to stop being a part of fast fashion, simply because it helps them to fulfill those instant gratification desires that they have. And because it is so complex and it looks like, there is in fact a lot of work that goes into changing the mindsets that people have when it comes to fast fashion. So like I said, fast fashion actually encourages this disposable they encourage this idea that throwing away is okay. They encourage disposable fashion. And many fast fashionistas in their teens and early 20s, that age group, the industry actually targets this age group, and they admit that and all, like I said, all these young or rather all these teens and young adults, in their early 20s, they in fact have admitted to the fact that they just wear these purchases once or twice. Like that's the only time they wear it. And after that, they don't really wear it. They wear it once or twice and then they just dispose of it because it's not trending anymore. So the problem then is the fact that you're spending so much of money. Obviously, money is a huge problem because these days, things are tough, things are expensive as well. So when it comes to spending money, obviously we need to think of the economy, we need to understand that we need the economic growth as well. But obviously when we're talking about individual spending for of families, fast fashion can in fact be, it can be disadvantageous, because I understand that it's cheap, but if you buy a lot of things that are cheap, it's still going to be expensive, right? It's still the equivalent of spending huge amounts of money on one dress, although this time you don't get one dress, you get multiple things, but you still spend the same amount. So it doesn't really change that narrative if you're struggling financially, right? And like I said, in terms of pollution, again, this is a huge problem, right? Because it costs the planet way more than it costs the planet way more than what you think it actually costs, right? Now, critics actually contend that fast fashion contributes to pollution, waste, and plant obsolescence due to the cheap materials and the manufacturing methods it uses. Okay, now to actually explain further into this, or to analyze this further, we will be obviously looking at some of these countries where these garments are produced, how their labor laws are, and how the ethics of it actually works, so we can understand this situation better. So, like I said, these critics actually contend that fast fashion contributes to pollution, it contributes to waste, and it also contributes to plant obsolescence. Right now, these poorly made garments actually don't age very well, and they can't be recycled either, since they're predominantly made of synthetics. Now, over 60% of these clothes are in fact made from synthetics. So when they actually are discarded, they end up, or they molder in landfills for years. So that is that is one of the biggest environmental issues, because they're made out of over 60% synthetics. They don't recycle, they don't age well, and when they do get discarded, they actually end up in landfills, and they keep moldering these landfills for years. And another thing we need to keep in mind is that most fast fashion companies actually, they outsource the production of their goods, which means that even though the main office would be, say, in the United States or in the United Kingdom, the production of it actually happens in other countries with much less with much less strict labor laws, with terrible labor laws, in fact. And that also means that when these fast fashion companies outsource their production, what that means is that the working conditions of all these laborers are in fact quite bad, and they don't get paid as well. So these are some of the biggest issues that I have been aware of, and some of the biggest issues I've heard as well, especially when I hear people talking about fast fashion, when I hear people talking about making sure that it's ethical fashion, that it's sustainable fashion as well. So, like I said, the fact that production is outsourced has in fact led to critics charging that fast fashion is built on bad working conditions, poor pay, and other abusive and exploitative practices. So, fast fashion has also in fact been criticized on intellectual property grounds. Okay, now that's actually because some designers have alleged that their designs have been illegally duplicated and mass produced by fast fashion companies. And if you look at it in the perspective of a designer, it would be absolutely terrible, because they just duplicate your work. They something that you worked hard for years, maybe months, even, or rather months, or maybe even years. They just duplicate that work, they just print it on some t-shirt, and they sell it, and they earn millions from it, right? And intellectual property is something that's huge. Intellectual property is something that a lot of people have a lot of issues with. So it's very, very important for these fast fashion companies to actually keep in mind that when they do print out these t-shirts, that they don't illegally use content that was created by artists. So, like I said, these designs have in fact been illegally duplicated and mass produced by the fast fashion companies. And that is in fact one of the biggest issues that are there. So let's actually move on to talk a little bit about sustainable fashion before we head into the break, because we also need to focus on sustainable fashion. Now, I told you about fast fashion, the advantages and disadvantages. So right now, let's actually talk about sustainable fashion, because that refers to clothing that is designed, manufactured, and distributed and used in ways that are environmentally friendly. So, ethical fashion is also a related term that is prevalent in that, conscious consumerism world, because it refers to your clothing made in ways that value social welfare and worker rights. Now, this is one of the biggest arguments that exist when it comes to fast fashion, right? the fact that fast fashion companies don't have proper worker rights, so there's a lot of exploitative and abusive conditions. So when it comes to sustainable fashion, we also talk about ethical fashion, because sustainable fashion is also about making sure all these workers have rights, that they have good working condition, and that there is social welfare for all of them. So, when we're talking about that, to actually make your wardrobe more green, there are actually different things you can do. So, what exactly is it that you can do to have much more sustainable fashion? So, in addition to letting your impulse desires pass, you have to really, really let go of those impulsive things, or the impulsive clothing items that you buy just because you see it. You have to really control that, right? But also, in addition to that, you can actually you can prioritize purchasing clothes that are made locally, or in facilities that are run on renewable energy, or even clothes that are made with low impact natural and organic materials. This is recycled, upcycled, or dead stock materials, sometimes even eco-friendly dyes, and or even zero or low waste designs. Okay, it's important to do that. And also, purchasing thrifted or second hand clothing instead of buying something completely new. If you buy something that is if you thrift shop, or if you buy some secondhand clothing, that will help the environment as well. And lastly, what you can do is, in fact, prolonging the life of your clothes by taking care of them well, and mending and tailoring as needed, and making alterations to actually modernize their looks to match your current taste. So those are a few things that you can do to make your wardrobe more sustainable, to make it more ethical. But right now, make sure you stay tuned, because we're going to head into a small break, and we'll be back soon after to talk to you a little bit more about renting and sustainable fashion.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. I mean, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset, And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young. Well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, "You had one to forget." That's it.
Yeah, that sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter. Yeah.
He'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it," and that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. An inquest. I mean, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
welcome back to the show. It is your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now, we were just talking about sustainable fashion. We were talking about ways in which you can actually make sure that the clothes you use, your wardrobe is in fact much, much more sustainable than what it is right now. And to actually get back into that conversation, we will be talking about right now about why renting is in fact so bad for sustainable fashion. Okay, so the biggest way to solve this whole sustainable fashion crisis has in fact been to rent clothes, because they think, okay, you know what, if I rent clothes, it will in fact be much, much more effective. It will definitely help will definitely help this huge problem that we have in terms of sustainability. It will definitely help these problems that we're facing in terms of how much wastage and pollution that is there for the environment. So because of that, everyone thought that renting was the answer. However, renting does in fact involve a large amount of transportation and taking the clothes back and forth between the warehouse and the renter. So because of that, because of transportation, and because of even after someone uses those clothes, you have to dry clean it, you have to clean it again so that someone else can wear it. And research has also found that dry cleaning is in fact very, very harmful to the environment. Now, the growing sector, renting, which is in fact a growing sector in fashion, has, according to global data, it is going to be worth 2.3 billion pounds by 2029. Okay, and it has also been touted as a possible solution to fashion's environmental crisis. However, the report by the World Economic Forum this year actually suggested that the industry, in fact, generates 5% of global emissions. So even though they thought that renting was, in fact, the answer to fashion's environmental crisis, it is in fact not the answer, because it is in fact increasing uh, emissions, it's increasing pollution and whatnot. So it's very, very important that you keep this in mind. So you actually need to, instead of solving fashion's environmental crisis, renting should in fact be recategorized, right? We shouldn't think of, or rather we should think of renting like second-hand shopping. Now, this was actually said by Dana Thomas, and she said it's not, you shouldn't think of it as something you do all the time. And you don't secondhand shop all the time, right? You just rent clothes whenever it's necessary. So for example, if it's something like the prom or the wedding, then what you do is, instead of buying clothes and swapping outfits non-stop on occasion, when the need arises, you will then rent out a beautiful dress for your prom or for your wedding, so things like that. Now, a new study actually suggests that if rental companies change their logistics to make them more climate friendly, renting would actually environmentally be on a level with reselling. Okay, but all they need to do is just change these policies they have. Um, they definitely need to change the logistics as well to make sure that this happens, right? And it is also found that the most sustainable way to consume fashion is in fact to buy fewer items and to wear them for as long as possible. So if you want to be sustainable, you just got to buy less, but you got to buy better, which means that the clothes that you purchase do in fact are, that they do have a good quality and that they will last for a long period of time. So it's important that if you are renting clothes, you rent clothes only when it's completely necessary. If not, you don't rent clothes at all. Because you have to make sure, or you need to understand how much you contribute to the planet in terms of how much you contribute to the planet in terms of pollution. Because ultimately we do have a role in taking care of this planet. It means that whatever lifestyle we live, whether it's the clothes we buy, whether it's the food we buy, that we're as sustainable as much as possible, because we need to make sure that we play our part to make sure there is a planet for the next generation. So if you are trying to be sustainable, renting is not the way to go, unless you rent when it's extremely necessary, like a prom or a wedding, or any other special event. And secondly, if you're worried about sustainable clothing, then try to buy better quality clothes, but try to not shop all the time. Okay, I know it's hard, but you can start small, you can do small, you can start small and then eventually increase, and then eventually make sure that you don't buy clothes unless it's completely necessary. And when you do buy those clothes, make sure they're good quality and that they will last for a long time. And always try to buy clothes that can be locally sourced, that are produced by companies that care about the environment, that have low that use lower environmental resources, and that they also have either zero to low waste in terms of production, right? So make sure to keep those things in mind, and make sure that when you're buying colored clothes, that those clothes that you buy are always made out of things like eco-friendly dyes, that they're upcycled, recycled, or even made from dead stock. So it's always important to keep those things in mind. And it's time for me to head out of here and make way for Jamie on the chat wrap, so make sure you stay tuned, because she'll be here to talk to you about everything interesting. She'll be here to talk to you about everything important, and she'll also make sure that you're interested for the next 3 hours. So make sure you stay tuned, because it's time for me to head out of here. And while I bid you adieu, I really hope that you have a good day, because it is a Monday, and I know we all complain about Mondays, but I think some days we should enjoy Mondays, okay? And I know that's the most ironic thing to say on a Monday morning, but if we think about it in a positive attitude, I know we can definitely get over the Monday blues, and we can definitely have a much better day. So make sure you stay tuned, make sure you enjoy your Monday, and make sure not to let any of the negativity and cynicism get to you. And I really hope you have a good day.